On March 3rd, 2026, a man walked into my shop holding his phone like evidence at a trial. He had just driven off the lot 3 weeks earlier in a brand new 2026 Toyota. He had waited 8 months for it. He had turned down 2 other vehicles to get it. He had told everyone he knew that he was done with unreliable cars. Toyota, he said, was different. Toyota always held up. And standing in my bay with his check engine light on, his lane-keeping system throwing phantom alerts, and his adaptive cruise control refusing to engage, he looked at me with the most specific kind of defeat. Not the defeat of someone whose car broke. The defeat of someone whose belief broke. Today, I am going to tell you the truth about 2026 Toyota reliability that the commercials will never say out loud, that the dealerships will not explain during the sales process, and that most review sites gloss over in 3 paragraphs buried under a chart full of green check marks. Because here is what almost nobody is saying clearly. Toyota is still one of the best automakers on the planet. That is not the question. The question is what exactly you are buying when you buy a 2026 Toyota. And once you understand that, you will never look at a reliability rating the same way again. Let me be clear about something first. I am not here to destroy Toyota. I drive one. I have worked on them for 2 decades. The engineering that made this brand legendary is still there, buried underneath the problem. But something has shifted, and the drivers paying for that shift deserve to understand what is actually happening under the hood, and more importantly, under the software. For most of automotive history, reliability was a mechanical conversation. Engines lasted or they did not. Transmissions held up or they failed. You could touch the problem, diagnose it, and fix it with a wrench. Toyota dominated that world. Their motors ran forever. Their transmissions were bulletproof. Their rust resistance was better than almost anyone else. That reputation was earned over decades, and it was real. But that era is quietly ending. 2026 Toyota models sit directly on the fault line, where the old reliability meets a new, much more complicated kind of failure. The 2026 Toyota lineup is the most technology-dense collection of vehicles this brand has ever put on the road. Nearly every model has gone hybrid or plug-in hybrid. The flagship RAV4, America's best-selling non-truck vehicle for years, now comes exclusively in electrified form. The new Toyota Safety Sense 4.0 system runs on a software platform named Arene, debuting across the lineup. A completely redesigned infotainment system with larger screens, new widgets, cloud-based navigation, and integrated streaming services is rolling into showrooms right now. And the 4Runner, after more than a decade on the same bones, finally got rebuilt from the ground up on a new platform. On paper, this is exciting. In practice, this is exactly when Toyota historically has problems. Here is the pattern that repeats itself every single time Toyota makes a major generational change. When they updated the Tundra for the 3rd generation, over 100,000 trucks ended up with engine failures traced back to metal shavings left in the block during manufacturing. When the new Tacoma launched with its first new automatic transmission in 30 years, transmissions were failing before trucks hit 5,000 miles. The previous Corolla Cross Hybrid had a software bug in the traction control system that caused power brake assist to fail. These are not rumors. These are documented recalls affecting hundreds of thousands of vehicles. And here is the part that makes smart buyers nervous in 2026. Nearly the entire Toyota lineup just went through exactly the kind of generational change that has historically produced these problems. Think about what is actually new on a 2026 Toyota. The RAV4 is redesigned with an entirely new hybrid powertrain, making 226 horsepower, up significantly from the outgoing model. It has a new infotainment system with new hardware and new software, and that software had a login problem so persistent that reviewers specifically tested whether it was fixed. It runs Toyota Safety Sense 4.0, which uses new sensors and a new software platform that Toyota describes as a significant step forward over the previous system. The plug-in hybrid variant offers 50 miles of electric-only range, up from 42, with expanded trim levels that have never existed before. Every one of those words, new, redesigned, updated, and first, is a reliability risk. This is not because Toyota makes bad cars. Every new system has a break-in period, and the break-in period for a complex software-integrated vehicle is not measured in miles. It is measured in years of real-world data. Consumer Reports actually stripped Toyota of its #1 reliability ranking entirely in early 2025, handing the crown to Subaru for the first time in years. Toyota won it back by the end of 2025, but only after significant improvements to the Tundra, Tacoma, and 4Runner, all vehicles that had launched with serious problems and were later scored on improved production versions. The 2026 models that are sitting in showrooms right now have not had years to be improved. They are the early production runs of major redesigns. That is the uncomfortable truth inside the reliability crown. Let me show you what this actually looks like in practice, because this is where drivers get hurt. When the Tundra went through its last major redesign, early buyers sometimes waited over a year for engine replacements. Toyota acknowledged the issue and initiated a recall covering hundreds of thousands of trucks, but the process was slow. Dealerships were overwhelmed, parts were backlogged. People who bought a new truck for work were without their vehicle for months. The recall exists, the fix exists, but the experience of being an early adopter in a major Toyota redesign was, for many owners, miserable. Now look at what is launching in 2026. The all-new RAV4, with its brand-new hybrid system and advanced driver assistance system software on a platform that has never existed in production before. The new BZ electric SUVs, expanding the Beyond Zero lineup that has already had early credibility problems. The redesigned 4Runner on an entirely new platform after 14 years of the same architecture. These are not minor updates. These are clean sheet vehicles with unproven track records. The man who walked into my shop 3 weeks after buying his new 2026 RAV4 had a specific frustration that I have started hearing more and more. It was not that something broke catastrophically, it was that nothing worked the way he expected. The lane-keeping system would activate randomly on a perfectly straight road with no lines being crossed. The adaptive cruise control would drop out on the highway and require him to reset it manually. The infotainment screen would lose his Bluetooth connection and require the car to be restarted. And every time he went to the dealership, the technician plugged in the scanner, found no stored fault codes, and told him the systems were functioning normally. That is a software reliability problem. And it is fundamentally different from a mechanical reliability problem in one very important way. A mechanical failure leaves evidence. A cracked bearing leaves metal debris. A worn clutch pack leaves heat damage. A failed sensor shows an out-of-range reading. Software failures are intermittent. They do not always store codes. They do not always reproduce on command. And they often cannot be fixed by replacing a part because there is no part to replace. The module is working correctly. The software logic running on it is the problem. Toyota's 2026 lineup is betting heavily on complexity. The RAV4 now runs its advanced driver assistance systems on a platform built around cameras, radar, and software algorithms that must interpret the world in real time and make split-second decisions. Toyota Safety. Since 4.0 is better than 3.0 by every technical measure. But better and mature are not the same thing. More capable software running on more data has more ways to be confused by edge cases that real-world drivers encounter every single day. Here is something most people never consider. When Toyota launched its previous infotainment system, the login process was so broken that it became a known issue discussed in owner forums, reviewed negatively by automotive journalists, and ultimately fixed in the next generation. That is a one-generation cycle of early adopters experiencing a broken feature. Those owners bought a Toyota specifically because Toyota's reputation said they would not have to deal with this. The reputation belonged to the engine. The problem was in the software. Two completely different reliability stories happening in the same vehicle. The 2026 generation fixed the login problem, but it introduced a new electric vehicle charging domain, subscription-based streaming integration, a new over-the-air update architecture, and a configurable home screen interface that did not exist before. Any one of those features could become the next login problem. Early production data will not tell you which one. That takes time in the real world with real drivers in real conditions. So what does a smart buyer actually do with this information? First, understand what you are actually evaluating when you read a reliability rating. Consumer Reports scores for 2026 models are largely based on 2024 and 2025 data, because 2026 vehicles have not been on the road long enough to generate meaningful owner survey data. When Consumer Reports says the 2026 Tacoma is predicted to be more reliable than average, that prediction comes from improvements made to 2024 and 2025 Tacomas. The 2026 Tacoma with any new features or changes is not fully represented in that score. You are buying data about the past to predict the future of a vehicle that has genuinely changed. Second, the older, less changed Toyota models in the 2026 lineup are a fundamentally different reliability bet than the redesigned ones. A 2026 Corolla carries one of the longest track records of any vehicle in production. It runs on a platform and powertrain that has been in production long enough that problems have been found, fixed, and eliminated across millions of vehicles globally. Its score reflects real, validated reliability because nothing significant has changed. If mechanical reliability is your priority, and it should be, the Corolla, the Camry, and the Prius are sitting on proven ground. Third, hybrids are actually doing better than pure internal combustion engines in Toyota's lineup right now. Consumer Reports data shows hybrids have about 15% fewer problems than standard combustion vehicles on average. Toyota's hybrid system, particularly the older generation now in the Corolla, Camry, and Prius, is mature. It has been refined over multiple generations. The electrical architecture is well understood by the dealer network. Hybrid drivetrain problems are relatively rare and well documented when they do occur. The risk is concentrated in the newest, most complex, most feature-dense versions of newly redesigned models. Early adopters of the 2026 RAV4 plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with a 50-mile electric range and the new Toyota Safety Sense 4.0 system on the new platform are taking a bet that Toyota's manufacturing execution is perfect from day one. That bet has not always paid off for Toyota buyers in the past. Here is the final thing I want you to sit with. Toyota still builds some of the most mechanically sound vehicles on the road. That is not changing, but the definition of a reliable car is changing around them. A vehicle that starts every morning, never blows up, and lasts 300,000 miles can still fail to do what it promises if its ADAS system behaves unpredictably, if its software generates phantom warnings, if its dealership cannot replicate a problem that happens to you every Tuesday morning on the same stretch of highway. The man in my shop did not have a broken car. He had a confused one. And the bill at the end of that confusion was not measured in parts replaced. It was measured in time, in frustration, in trips to the dealership, in a creeping suspicion that the brand he believed in had quietly changed into something he did not fully recognize. Toyota reliability in 2026 is real. It is also specific. It lives in certain models, on certain platforms, with certain powertrains, and it fades the further you get from proven, established technology into brand new, first year, never been done this way territory. Know which Toyota you are buying. Know what data actually supports its reliability score. Know that the brand's reputation is not a blanket that covers every new feature on every new model equally. Because the next person sitting in my bay 3 weeks after buying their new vehicle will have read the reviews, seen the ranking, trusted the name, and never understood why none of that was quite the same as the truth. If this gave you a clearer picture of what reliability actually means in 2026, hit like so more buyers see it before they sign. Subscribe if you want the kind of information that puts you in control of your ownership experience instead of reacting to it. Drop a comment if you are driving a recent Toyota and you have already run into something that does not match the reputation. Those stories are real, they matter, and they deserve to be heard.